I'll catch a Greyhound bus for home, they all say. On Broadway. But oh, they did wrong, I know they are. 'Cause I can play this here guitar, and I won't pretend I'm a star on Broadway. Oh, they did wrong, I know they are. 'Cause I can play this here guitar, and I won't pretend I'm a star on Broadway. On Broadway. On Broadway. I'll be a big, big, yeah. I'll be a big, big, big man. I'll have my name in lights. Everybody's gonna know me, yeah. All up and down Broadway.
Hey, welcome to Illegal Knowledge. This is Michael Oman, and we are live on Friday, the 15th of May, 2015. This is episode 710, The Future of Tucson Transportation. And if you're watching live, please go ahead and call in at the top of the hour, or you can tweet, or you can Facebook, or email, and you can comment or ask questions on our shows. I also wanted to let you know that if you're watching on Thursday morning, that's our replay at 7 a.m. on Thursday morning, every Thursday morning. Or you can watch all of our shows on YouTube, online. Go to the internet to illegalknowledge.com, and you'll get the links from there. Illegal Knowledge is one of the few Access Tucson shows which still airs live monthly. And due to the massive city budget cuts, we still need your financial support to continue doing this. So you can donate by sending an email to support@illegalknowledge.com, or and for more information, or if you want to underwrite us and you have a name or business that you want to get on the air, you can send us email to underwrite@illegalknowledge.com, and we will put it up on the screen. You can use hashtags IKTV, IKTV Live, or Illegal Knowledge to reference the show on Twitter or on Facebook. And if you go to illegalknowledge.com, you can get the Facebook link and message us from there, or tweet at IKTV Live. And either way, send in or email ask@illegalknowledge.com for email. Either way, send your questions in now. I'll read them on the air, or call in at the top of the hour, and you can speak to us directly. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about the future of Tucson Transit, and in particular the Broadway widening, the current narrower Citizens Task Force proposal, which was just approved, and we'll talking about more of light rail and the streetcar and community needs and a lot more. We have a very moving show planned for you tonight, but before I get to that, I'd just like to talk about a couple things. In Tucson City news, the city wants to increase the water rates and fees. There will be a hearing about that this coming Tuesday, the 19th of May, at the regularly scheduled Mayor and Council meeting at Tucson City Hall downstairs at 5:30 p.m. That's 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, May 19th. So be there. You can still give public comments on the Ronstadt Transit Center and the PAG Transportation Improvement Program, the PAG TIP. PAG is also hosting 2 more transit planning workshops this next week at their office at Stone and Broadway. You can contact PAG for more information. It's on Tuesday and Thursday, and they can tell you how to RSVP for that. So Bernie Sanders is running for president, so let's see if we can get a real socialist in office. Okay, so let me introduce our community-approved panel tonight. We have Jean Kaywood and Mary Durham Flipson. Is that how you
got
say
it?
Right? Yeah. Both of them are on the Tucson Citizens Task Force. Jean on our right here is a technical consultant, and Mary is a committee member. She's the chairperson for the Citizens Task Force. Now, the Citizens Task Force was something they came up with about 3 years ago, I guess. We can get back into the history of this. The real history of what Broadway widening is, it goes back to 1987 with a corridor study that recommended that it should be widened on the north side of the street, like up to a half a block or something, just take out all that stuff. And
yeah, it basically, because of the width of the roadway with 8 lanes, it would have taken out all the property. Actually, what the study said is they realized they would have to take out all the buildings on the north side of the street. So then what they had recommended was that the leftover land between there and on most blocks there's an alley back there, would become like a linear park. And that was the concept in that 1987 study.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that 1987 study left a lot of people in limbo because there was never any money to do anything about it in terms of putting in the actual recommendations. And so people on the north side sort of didn't invest in their property and let it go downhill, thinking that any time the city might buy it and widen it, whereas people on the south side made some improvements. And now it looks like the roadway is going to sort of be in the middle, so some people on both sides are unhappy.
Yeah. Well, people are generally unhappy no matter what you do, right? Pretty much. So I only got here in 1999 to Tucson. Did they have the Broadway tunnel done when that was?
Oh, the underpass?
1987, was that?
Oh, yeah, the original underpass on Broadway was built in 1934.
No, not the linear one, the one that curves around like it does now.
The one, and then they rebuilt that one in 1962 to a straight one, and then they rebuilt the one that's there now. And yeah, it was opened in, I forget what year, but it was
that the 90s?
About the early 90s.
So they did this study before they built the tunnel under Broadway?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so
well,
it goes back that far.
The tunnel under Broadway was a state project as part of Aviation Park.
Yeah. Okay. And then in the 2000s, they had a RTA vote where we voted on a large funding project, a number of projects.
2006.
2006, yes. And it was one of those that would allow for Broadway to be widened. What did they say? 8 lanes. Then is what the proposal was.
Right.
Yeah.
And so again, everyone was upset. Even anyone who wants to.
Well, so the ballot language really was, 8 lanes, 3 lanes in each direction, plus an additional one for transit.
Yeah, and that was going to take a whole lot of buildings too. That was going to wipe out.
Well, it was essentially the same as the 1987 plan, except in scope at least, except that what the city did was they made a decision that they ought to take another look at at where it was going to be, and maybe they didn't want to widen all on the north side. Maybe they wanted to do something different, and that's how the Citizen Task Force was formed. And Mary can talk to more of that because she's been on it since they formed it.
And that was in 2012.
Yes.
When you guys said, and that was the beginning of your involvement then?
It was, yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a process. Everybody who lived in the project area got a letter from the city basically saying, would you like to serve on this task force? And it was a little bit like applying for a job. There were some questions you had to answer as to why you wanted to be on the task force and what your interest was. And
how long did they tell you it would be?
Well, initially I think they signed us up for, I think it was it 12 to 18 months, I think.
Yeah. So it's double that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
But you definitely, I mean, compared to what it would have been really devastating to have done the 8-lane project, just because you would have ended up, the businesses that were along that route, it really would have just wiped out a whole, section of Tucson history. And
it would have.
And you guys did a really good job, I think, on trying to preserve as much as it could be. And
thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a challenge
compared to what I was seeing when a couple of years ago when I got you guys make maps periodically, And I was seeing them, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's going to get rid of everything."
Yeah. There were
Yeah.
the first few iterations
Yeah.
were a little scary.
Yeah. So now we have this narrower one, and I can't say that. More narrow one, and and Gene, you had a hand in doing that.
Well, I did because I think but the background of what happened was that I think that the task force really wanted to see something really narrow because they didn't like the idea of having to destroy so many buildings, and the city consultant team didn't come up with what they wanted to see. And so then some people, so I threw some ideas in. I had been attending the meetings and just as an observer and a citizen, and I threw some ideas out, and some people asked me to refine those ideas, and then some members of the task force liked what they saw, so they asked me to work on it more, and at the same time then the city finally responded and came up with a real narrow alignment. And so what happened was that the citizen task force had ended up adopting what they called a hybrid of the what I had presented with what the city staff or consultants had come up with.
And what was going on before that was there was a lot of landscaping, and like there was like 12 feet of landscaping in the median, like another 8 feet
right
on the sides.
That's
right?
why the newspaper reported several months ago 37 buildings or 39 buildings would have to be destroyed, and that was for sure destroyed because the landscaping or the sidewalk or the roadway actually went through the building.
Right.
So there's no way you're going to save that one. It's gone. Okay.
You can't bury the road.
Right.
Yeah.
And so so that's what the task force reacted against. They're like, 40 buildings, that's we don't like that.
And
so
there was a pretty big public outcry, as I recall.
Yeah.
As well.
So that's when this whole thing happened to come up with a narrower alignment, and the work I did along with what the city consultants did was we got it down to right now somewhere around 10 buildings that would for sure have to be destroyed.
Six, you said six. What I did is I looked on the map.
You counted. You missed a few.
And I must have not seen sidewalks go. And
right. Probably it's kind of hard to count. In fact, the staff originally said 9, and then about a week later, it's like I was looking at the map and it's like no, it's 10. And so but it's way down. It's from 30. It's from 39 to down to 10. It's a huge improvement.
Let's think about the ones that actually do have to go, though. Right. It's the one that's the one on the corner there of. Can we get a map number 3 on the? On the corner of Broadway and Campbell, the service station.
The old service station building. They moved out a couple of years ago?
I think more than a couple.
Yeah, it's
like
been
3 or 4.
Can we get map number 3 up on the screen, Kevin? Yeah, he's working. Okay. Yeah,
but it's that building, and that's one of them. And then on the south side of the street, just west of the Carl's Jr. and that little shopping center there's two houses
other little,
that are right up close to the street,
and it's basically you can either go through the church or you can go through those two houses.
That's the choice you have. And so the houses look like the choice at this point. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I was saying at one of the open houses or whatever, I guess it was at the open house, that they built that other section onto the parking lot of the church because they thought that was going to go, and they put it back.
From the '87 alignment.
Right. Now they have. Oh, here we go. Okay, so right in the top right of your screen there, the orange building with the blue shade around it. That's the service station.
Right.
Yeah, and then sort of mid left on the bottom side, the 2 orange ones are those 2 houses, and the red thing is the church.
The church on the north side.
Yeah, the church with the steeple and everything. And so you over to the right. I don't know if you can see on map 4. There's a Wiener Schnitzel.
Right.
Or something. You saved that, didn't you?
Well,
not the front parking. Probably.
See, some of what we've saved so far may not end up being saved because of parking and access issues. Right. But right now, we saved the Wiener Schnitzel and the Mexican restaurant on the corner. For now, at least. We'll see how it turns out.
And then the other one, the other really big one, is the El Rio Center.
Yes, that's
That
a
just
big.
got in the way.
That's a big one.
That's on,
and
what is that, map 1, I think?
That's on map 2, I think.
Or is it map 2?
Right.
Yeah.
But the El Rio
Let's try
Center.
map 2.
Yeah, it is. So
You can follow us along
Come on.
online. I think it was map 1.
that's 3.
Yeah,
maybe it's
that's-
1.
I
It
think
might
it's
be
1.
1, but
Yeah, it must be map 1.
yeah, because that's 2. That's 2. All
Yeah.
right, so it is on 1. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Can we switch over to? Yeah.
Here's one.
There's one.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So those green things there on the top and bottom are bus, not pullouts. I guess those are
They're
just.
just bus stops.
They're just regular bus stops, regular
And
curbside stops,
actually,
and it's that blue shaded property just to the right of that top green one.
Actually, that's city-owned
Or
property.
no,
at
that's
corner of
the,
Park. So
no,
it is
that's
on
that other
map
thing.
2. It is
Yeah, it
on
must
map
be on
2.
the
The very right edge, the very left edge of map 2. Anyway.
You can go online to illegalknowledge.com, and if you're following with a computer, you can see this. So please go up to, if we can get illegalknowledge.com, and then just go there, and I have all the numbers there, and you can go through them online. If you're watching at home and you're curious. So that the thing that I said was that gray thing with the blue around it. That's what, an abandoned warehouse or something like
Well,
that.
it's not abandoned. The city
owns
the
it?
city purchased it for the Broadway widening a number of years ago, and it's actually it's used by city for storage, and for some of their people work out of there that do the landscaping and the medians and that kind of thing. And then Old Pueblo Trolley leases a part of it for their restoration shop.
Oh, okay, all right. And then I guess the top hat is the only other one that's going to get
Yes,
the
the
front
top
of it
hat is
cut off,
the one they missed,
which is near
that
Tucson,
made it 10.
just to
yeah,
the
just west of Tucson
west of
Boulevard.
Tucson on the north side of Broadway.
Right, and then
And pretty
there's-
much you saved everything else. I mean,
Well, there's a few others, but
now,
yeah, pretty
now,
much.
I guess here's
pretty much.
really the thing. These are the buildings that actually the road or the sidewalk or something is going through.
Right.
But the road is impacting parking, frontages, things like
Right,
that.
on lots of other properties, and that's where the big number came of 85 that the city is saying, oh, because we're impacting their parking, we're probably going to end up buying them out. And what the next step in this will be is to try to work down that 85 and get that number down to where so we can solve some of the parking problems and the access problems, so that the city really doesn't have to buy that many properties.
Right. Now,
But
it's
again,
not like
it's-
the city is just going to flat out buy them just because a little bit of the parking's gone. It's up to the owner at this point, right?
Well, it's sort of, yeah, it is.
I mean, unless your building's getting knocked down, like the top end, you're going by.
But if-
Oreo, yeah, I think we'll figure out where
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. Of course, in the end, it's totally up to the owner whether they want to sell or not. Or they might They might say, well, I can live with a couple of less parking spaces. And then of course there's city codes and stuff. Does you have enough parking to meet what the requirements are? And so there's lots of elements that enter into whether or not the business is considered viable in that location.
And then the city too could provide relief for zoning requirements for parking too, right? Because if you're gonna, or I guess that's really more of Mary's question, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. The task force was in kind of a unique position.
Yeah.
Because
on the last
we were
meeting.
just asked to design the roadway, to kind of meet the spirit of what the public voted for. And we weren't involved in land use, which is really when you
Right.
get into the
That's the
property
zoning and the-
acquisition and the zoning and that sort of thing. So it made it really tough for us, because obviously those goes hand in hand, but we could only really look at one piece of that, and kind of we weren't really allowed to consider or know the other part of it. So that's what made it really tricky, sitting in the chair as a task force member, because clearly
But ideally, the city would do something like that.
yes, yeah.
Well, and I think they're going to try because what they have done recently is bring in the Office of Integrated Planning, which is the fancy term for the city's planning section or department, and those people are going to be working with the study from now forward. And one of the things that the mayor and council will be asked to authorize at their meeting on June 9th will be to proceed with land use planning part of it. And of course, then that includes parking, and it includes access, it includes everything about the use of the land.
Okay. So I guess we should probably mention that what you guys did the other week to finalize and send an approved recommendation,
Alignment.
I guess, through to the mayor and council. They're now going to vote on this.
Correct.
The mayor and council and this is on June 9th, so not the next meeting, but the one after it. Tuesday, June 9th at 5:30, mayor and council chambers in City Hall. They'll probably do that, right? I mean, it's been a while.
We certainly hope so. We worked really hard to put that together.
You don't think they'll send it back to you, do you?
I don't think
It
so.
is something that could happen, though, right?
I would think so.
Yeah.
What do you think, Gene?
Well, this council always has a choice.
Yeah.
They don't have to vote on things. They can
Right.
send them back for more work, or they can decide we have enough information and we're going to vote on it.
Right.
And then it's anybody's guess at this point, I think, how the vote turns out. You know,
Sure.
you have to have four yes votes for something to pass.
Of course.
So I don't think anybody wants to maybe we make an educated guess, but we don't want to say for sure, absolutely, this is what's going to
Well,
happen.
I mean, I think you have a lot more people on the side of, yes, this plan works now. I mean, I think there's still some people that are like, how about just nothing? How about we just leave it the way it is? And you know what, leaving it the way it is, I've been biking down Broadway a number of times and have nearly gotten run over or sometimes people pull in because there's so many pull-offs. There's so many driveway areas that, you know, and people would just cut right in front of you. I'm on a bike in the bike lane, you know, and it's horrible. And then the center left turn just really, I mean, it just doesn't work. I mean, with people either coming in or going out, and then it's, you know, at least it's no more reversible lane in the center. That was a
Right.
good
So some people have
thing to get rid of, but
some people have one of the complaints some people
needs
have
some
had.
work.
I think everybody acknowledges it needs some work.
Yeah.
At a minimum, what people acknowledge is it needs sidewalks.
yes, definitely
Yeah,
sidewalks.
it definitely needs
Yes.
sidewalks. Okay.
ADA,
Because ADA, yeah, it's not,
ADA
it's not
compliant
emergency
sidewalks.
services act.
Yeah.
No, you can't get anywhere in a wheelchair going down
Yeah,
Broadway.
you have to go down the bike path.
Yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
not safe.
No.
So everybody acknowledges it needs work, and then but like you said, some people think we ought to basically leave it as it is and just put some sidewalks in. But you pointed out a lot of issues that could be corrected if they rebuild the roadway and
Right.
make it a little bit wider. I think on the other hand, there's some people who are disappointed that it's not 8 lanes, or
Right.
they're disappointed it's not the wider version of the 6 lanes. And what I'd like to point out is that it's still, with the narrowest version we're dealing with, it's still better than it is today. Things are still bigger than they are today, okay? Your travel lanes for your cars are at least as big as they are today.
Yeah, right now they have
And
like
they're
10
bigger.
foot,
I think
9
I
foot
got some.
travel
No,
lanes.
I think we got at least 10 in
Because they had
places
to
and
add
some 11s.
because it used to be the whole
But-
width of the roadway, and now
Yeah,
they
and then
added
they
a
put the
lane,
bike lane, so they
cut it
they
in
did
2.5
narrow the
feet.
lanes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So under the new plan, you'll have 11-foot lanes, which is
Yeah.
plenty adequate. Today you got, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot bike lanes.
Yeah,
You're gonna
I think
have
it's-
you're
yeah.
gonna have 6-foot bike lanes. Today, where there's sidewalk, you got 4 feet, maybe 5 feet. The sidewalks are going to be 6 feet, and so it's a big improvement. But it's not the huge improvement or the huge thing it was before. You know, we've managed to trim a foot or two here and there off of everything and get it to miss a lot of buildings, but still have it a lot better than it is today.
Well, yeah, and you can't really do dedicated travel lanes for buses and stuff like that, transit lanes. with
Well,
the-
sure you can.
Well, I guess you could. You just keep
Sure.
Yeah.
two of the lanes, the normal 2-lane, and then you'd have the 3rd lane. That's the
Right. That's the way it
Right.
would work
Right.
if
Yeah.
you were to dedicate a lane for transit.
Because right now there's essentially 5 lanes, but the center lane almost functions as an landscaped median
Yeah.
because you use it for left turns. It's
Yeah.
not a travel lane.
Yeah.
So really, we're going from 4 lanes to 6 lanes,
Right.
and that's one of the questions that the task force had to tackle was, you know, the projections that we're working from, the growth projections in traffic
Right.
show that we don't really need the full 6 lanes for mixed traffic. It's going to be another 10 years with
before
the growth.
that's really
before-
So we could
before
go
it's
with like
essential.
we could just restripe it when we need it to be. We would stripe it right now as bus lanes,
Yeah,
And
that was
10
something
years
that,
down the road, we just stripe it for travel lanes.
right, or
Yeah.
who knows, maybe enough people enjoy the transit
That
they don't need to take their cars anymore.
Stops using their cars.
That would be really cool.
That would be the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So that was definitely a topic of conversation for the task force.
And then the whole thing with the I noticed that there were not very many bus pullouts, like, per se, and I guess that's an effort to keep it narrow.
Well, it's partly an effort to keep it narrow, but it's also to comply with city policy, which the city's policy is you only put bus pullouts at other intersecting arterial streets, which in this case would be Euclid and Campbell and Country Club, where you have other bus routes and people transfer, so there's a lot of use of that stop, and sometimes the bus waits there.
Sit there for a while.
Sit there for a while.
Okay.
The other thing in the city policy is that if a bus stop has more than 100 boardings or alightings per day, then it should be considered at least for a pullout.
Okay.
And so that's what's going to happen, I think, and that's probably going to be the criteria. And there's probably going to be a couple of bus pullouts added where we haven't shown any on the narrowest plan.
Okay. Because I always favor the bus pullouts. I just think it's a good idea.
That's because you drive a car.
No, actually, I drive a bike.
Oh, same deal. You don't ride the bus.
I do ride the bus. I ride the bike to the bus.
Pullouts are
and
not.
then I get
Bus
off the
pullouts
bus
are not
on my bike,
are not
and, yeah.
advantageous for bus riders. It slows the bus down. But car
Well,
drivers and bicyclists love them because it gets the bus out of the
The thing
way.
that I've heard that a lot, and I wanted to comment on that. And being a bus rider as I am, and I do notice this when there isn't a bus pullout, when it's just the regular in lane, you pull over, the buses still have to look behind them and wait for traffic that's passing them to clear. So it's not like they were going to go right off in the. It's not like there's a giant lane of cars. Because there's usually a bike lane or some sort of berm that they pull out over to anyway.
Yeah, they get
and so
over.
cars keep going around.
You're right. They get over a little bit into the bike lane, but it's not like being totally out of the traffic and having to totally wait till somebody stops.
Usually
for you,
the drivers
whole
do
line
wait.
of cars get by.
Usually
when you're
that is what
stopped at the
happens.
curb, even if you're over in a bike lane, and the bus can sort of ease its way out. But it's real hard to ease your way out when
No,
you're
you have to wait
totally
for the
off
traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something to keep in mind too, because we studied, the city made some models for us to study, and we're getting an additional lane of traffic on both sides with the 6-lane model. So even the buses, everyone will move faster. The cars will have an extra lane, so there will still be the 2 lanes we have now for them to get around the bus, and so hopefully that'll mean that the bus will be able to move along more quickly, because the cars will have a place where they can get out of the bus's way.
And it's not just one bottleneck lane.
Right.
Where everybody's trying to get into one thing.
Exactly. So really, that was another thing we talked about with regards to the bus pullouts, is with that extra lane, there's just more room for cars to get around. So hopefully, the bus pullouts aren't really essential.
Okay. It's almost. I have 20 seconds here. We had if you were watching about a half an hour ago, I guess there was a programming mix-up. And I was told that at 9 o'clock I should mention, so I'm waiting for it to be 9 o'clock, and now it's 9 o'clock. All right. If you're here watching Tom Hartman, he'll be on in a half an hour. It is 9 o'clock, so if you want to call in, we can get the number up on the screen there. You're watching Illegal Knowledge for the next half hour, and we're talking tonight. We're live. Talking with Jean Kaywood and Mary Durham Flibson about the future of Tucson Transit. So in the future here, and if you want to call in, our numbers are there on the screen. They're not going to, obviously on June 9th, they're doing the meeting. They'll probably approve it, let's say, maybe. If they did, it's not shovel ready. We gotta wait. This should be done by what? 2018.
They're wanting to break
Is that-
ground, I think, in 2018.
Oh, is that when? Really?
Isn't
Is
that
it
the
gonna be
current
that?
start date?
Yes.
I saw 2017 to 2018, so I was figuring.
Well, the
they would be
date
done
seems
by-
to keep shifting a little
Yeah, it
bit.
might be
and I think
2020,
that's
okay,
for
yeah.
two reasons. One is that the process is a little bit delayed, and then
Right.
you need time to do the design. And then I think they're beginning to realize too that the acquisition process for the properties could take longer than a normal one because just of the large number of properties that they're going to have to deal with. And then the last thing is funding. I think there's and coordination with other projects. I think
Okay.
they don't want to have this part of Broadway under construction at the same time that the last mile of the Aviation Parkway
right.
is under
The
construction.
downtown links.
And the downtown links is supposed to go to construction later this year.
Okay.
And so it'll be finished in sometime in early 2018 probably, or mid 2018.
So you're
and so
thinking
I
that
think
they'll-
then
okay.
once that's finished, then it makes sense to do Broadway. And
Right.
so for all the combination of all those reasons, the time thing has sort of shifted a little bit later.
So you wouldn't want the construction there right at
To
Aviation and
me it
Broadway.
doesn't make
Right.
sense to
Also
have
having
two projects at
Right.
the same time that are close to each other
Right.
under construction. And the city does, believe it or not, when you drive around, sometimes you wonder. But you know, they really do try to consider that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not shovel ready. It's not that
Right.
we
You
need
still have to do final design.
They do have to do some final planning. They're on the website in addition to the plan that's up that I put there with the pages of there's a PDF. There's two different PDFs. One is an additional considerations or something like that. It has like 7 or 8 circle areas that could be changed from the. That's going to go through a whole big review,
Yeah,
and then the actual engineering aspects have to be
Right.
Yeah.
handled, and that'll take a while.
Right.
During that time, businesses, residents, commuters, do they still have a comment toward either the task force or would it be mayor and council?
Well, I think
Or-
at this point,
I
certainly.
mean, there's been a lot of meetings, and
Yeah, yeah.
hopefully by now.
It's going to go to mayor and council, and then if mayor and council are happy with it, you know, they'll refer it on to the RTA. So certainly those are important organizations for folks to get their opinions to. You know,
Right.
right now I would certainly encourage folks to.
I mean, if they, you guys have probably heard from nearly all, if not all, business owners on that alignment, right?
We've heard from quite a few. I couldn't say if we've
You don't
heard
know if
from
you've
all
heard
of them
from
yet or not. You know, it's been amazing to me that as this, you know, for 3 years we've been working on this, and more people are getting on board all the time. You know, because for whatever reason, maybe they didn't live or have a business in the project area, and now they do, and it's getting on their radar. So really, every meeting we have, I talk to people that I hadn't talked to before. So yeah, this
So
is
if
a
you're
good-
out there, business owner, here's the one. Here's the one to talk to right here. All right.
Yeah. And something else-
the Citizens Task Force has a website. It's on,
We
when
do.
I put your name up there, it had the TucsonAZ.gov/Broadway,
Right.
and then you can email Broadway@TucsonAZ.gov. Okay, and so you can.
Yeah.
You're still taking.
We are still taking comments.
yeah.
You know, right now we're in kind of the earliest design phase. This alignment is just a starting point so that the city can go to the property owners and start talking about, you know, what's going to work, what's not going to work, what's going to be acquired. But there's a lot of refinement that's going to happen
Yeah.
in this design for quite a while, and the Citizens Task Force is still going to be involved in that, as is the project team, which are the technical people that actually work on this design. So there's still plenty of opportunity for input, because while the number of lanes is probably pretty well decided on this point, there's a lot of detail about the roadway and the design, you know, what kind of bike lanes and this sort of thing. So definitely folks should be.
And no Michigan lefts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that was another
we
really
recommended taking
great-
those off at
yeah.
our last meeting. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, there's still ample opportunity for design to continue. So lots of room to have your comments heard.
Okay, and then as we said, the plans might change a little. Things that were impacted a little more may go to a little less, or a little less to a little more.
Right.
You'll keep all the people informed all the businesses.
Absolutely. You know, there's details
And
like
then,
utilities and that sort of thing.
and that will obviously, like, I mean, the telephone poles on
Sure,
half
sure.
the road
I mean,
are going to be moved. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Right,
So
yeah.
that you know, all of that is still to be determined.
yeah. Okay, so there's plenty of planning. In the far future, I mean, more than say 2020, more than the current build out that they will be doing. They were thinking about doing light rail down Broadway. Way back, as far as this 1987 study, which still is online on the city's site.
Right.
I was looking at it,
Yeah.
and it included light rail. And I was like, wow, what took them so long, and why is it only 4 miles and not down? Anyway, but we can accommodate light rail on this, maybe in the center or maybe on the edges, or how would that work?
Yeah, either one, I think,
Yeah.
because
It would have to go on the existing roadway, though.
right, and
Yeah.
that's but after the roadway is built, as it'll be, the decision that's been made is it'll be built and open for automobiles, and then whatever we do with transit will be added later or substituted, whichever it might be. There's like the streetcar that they built, it travels in the existing travel lanes,
Right.
and so you could do that with light rail also, and you certainly can do it with bus rapid transit, or if there's enough demand, you might decide to dedicate a lane to the light rail or the transit, in which case it could be, as you said, either the right-hand lane or the center lane. And all that would be decided by a future transit study.
Yeah. Okay. So that's not part of this one at all.
That's correct.
But
Well,
in a way, you're sort of planning for it with the transit lane possibility.
yeah,
idea.
that's a smart thing to do, because
Yeah.
you don't want to come in here however long
Yeah.
it is, 5 years, 10 years,
Right.
50
And
years.
say,
You
oops,
don't-
we got to redo it.
Oops, we got to redo it. No, we don't want to do that. So we want to plan now, and
Yeah.
we want to look at where the transit would go in either the right lane or the center lane, and then are there room for the stops or the stations? On the right-hand side, it's pretty easy,
Yeah.
because you'd use bus stops that are going to be there anyway. On the left side, you're going to have a median space for those, and that's one of the things in the final design that will be looked at, is to make sure that is to sort of decide where those stations would be and make sure there's enough room there, and make sure that things aren't in the way at that point to where you could put the station there. You don't want to have a whole bunch of big landscaping
Right.
or some big poles in the way, so
Sure.
the people can't get to the station if that's where it is.
So that, I mean, a lot of the median is kind of narrow. I mean, it's not a lane wide like it was.
Right.
That's right.
It's
That
what,
was
like
one of
3
the
or 4
techniques
feet?
used to get the thing down to miss some
Yeah.
more buildings, was to
Right.
narrow where we could, to narrow the
Yeah.
median.
So it would be near like a left turn lane where you have the sort of what is that called, the pork chop or whatever? Is that what
No,
it's
that's
called? It's
just
pork
a
chop.
left turn lane.
What is
left
a pork
turn
chop
bay.
anyway?
What is a pork chop?
Yeah, what's a pork chop?
A pork chop is where you have the roadway and there's a right turn lane, that there's a little island that separates the main roadway from the right turn lane. And because if you look at it, it kind of goes like this and back. It
Oh.
looks like a pork chop.
Okay, so it's that little triangle
It's
with
that
the
little
curved
triangle
Yeah.
piece
Oh, okay.
between the right turn and the through lanes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So that has nothing to do with that. Okay. So it's so in the center they'd accommodate. They
Right.
widen it out if need be. Like maybe just.
Well, hopefully
Yeah,
it'll be
it'll be
wide
wider
enough without
already.
having to
Yeah.
change
There's an
anything.
ADA requirement on that, right?
Yeah, which is 8 feet, is my understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
So okay.
So as long as you have an 8-foot width in the median at the place where you're going to have a station. Now the median could be narrower than that at other places, but at the place where there would be a
Where they'd be
transit
boarding.
stop, where they'd be boarding, you need a minimum of 8 feet.
All right. Okay. So with bus rapid transit, as I said, the PAG is doing I guess they're just allowing the public to come in and get an idea of how far money gets you
Right.
this week. The things that they're doing, that open house or whatever it is. They were talking about bus rapid transit for a while, and these are not the express buses, but they would be buses that are at grade. So
Yeah.
we don't have to do a wheelchair.
Well, yeah, well, of course, Suntrans using mostly low-floor buses now that you don't have wheelchair lifts.
Well, they still have them. So,
Yeah, but mostly, I said. So
Yeah.
the bulk of the fleet now is low-floor buses.
No, I mean, even those low-floor ones, they still put out the ramp for wheelchairs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, they do. Because
This would
it's
be
still
so that
higher.
you don't have to do that?
But
Is that-
yeah, but it wouldn't be a change in the bus probably so much as it would be that you raise the
platform.
sidewalk at that
Right.
point, so
Right.
the platform lines up with the height
Right.
of the bus. But yeah, bus rapid transit, typically the way it's been built around the country, that's what you have is what they call level or platform level boarding.
And then you have sometimes longer buses.
Usually they're longer buses, articulated, they bend in the middle,
Uh-huh.
and yes, so they have a larger capacity. But the real difference between our express buses we have today, our express bus routes, and the bus rapid transit is the frequency of stops. Express buses typically run 3 or 4 or 5 miles, have a stop, run another 3 or 4 miles, and then maybe stop every stop out in the suburbs. Your bus rapid transit typically is built like light rail lines are around the country, where they go a mile, they stop about every mile, and that's really what's known. The term that's used in the transit industry is limited stop. So the difference between what I just
And
described
express.
is the differences between limited and express.
Yeah. So the express, you're just supposed to get from one point to way down the road.
Right.
Very fast.
Express is typically for commuters, and it's to shorten the time of the trip because you're traveling such a long
And
distance.
you don't want to stop at every stop.
And there's no need
Like
to
you're
stop
going
at
from
every stop,
Raytheon to
right,
the Oro Valley or something.
or from on the Route 108
Or-
on
yeah,
Broadway.
right.
You're coming from Harrison or something clear
Right.
downtown.
You're going to downtown.
Yeah.
Right.
And so these would actually
But
be
the bus rapid transit or the
Not
light
every
rail
stop,
is
but
designed to
pretty
stop
much
about every mile.
Yeah.
Or in the case of Broadway, you'd probably stop at
the malls and
Elcon,
at
where
the-
the malls
right,
are, and
right.
Park Mall.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't stop every quarter mile like
Right.
the local bus does.
you wouldn't stop at Park and Broadway.
You would not stop at Park and Broadway.
Like, why is that stop there when there's a stop right down on Euclid? So yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's one thing that will be looked at is the
Yeah.
spacing of the bus stops.
Because there's one on the El Rio, and then like not only a block away, there's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always wonder about that. Who put those there? Well, I mean, they got rid of the one on the just past Country Club on the south side, and I guess there was one on the north side, in between Elcon Mall, in the quarter mile in between.
It's a half.
some reason
it's a half mile.
It's a
to
half mile
Elcon
between
Mall.
Country Club and
But
Elcon.
yeah, because
they had one
typically-
at a quarter mile, and they got rid of those because
I-
literally no one.
Well, probably
ever
nobody ever used them.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But typically, you put a stop every quarter mile.
Yeah.
So in case somebody does want to use it.
So what are the possible routes that I know you said that there were when you guys had the you got a lot of feedback about where people wanted the light rail.
Yeah,
routes.
that was actually a study that they did at the opening celebration for the modern streetcar.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had a survey, and they asked people, where would you like to see the streetcar go next? And the number one response was actually down Broadway to Elcon and to the park, and High Corbett Field to Park Mall.
Yeah.
People would love to see that.
Yeah, that survey was actually done by Southern Arizona Transit Advocates, which is an advocacy group for transit. And it was a very interesting study, and the results were what I expected, which was Broadway.
Yeah.
And it's not what a lot of people expected.
I
but that's
sort of
what
expected
came out.
people to say Oro Valley to the airport,
I don't think
or
we-
maybe
yeah.
I-10.
We got. I think the second choice was Oracle and south to the airport, if I remember right. And the third most votes were something along Campbell that connected to U of A and to the airport.
Yeah. See, I thought that a really good idea would be to have like a bisecting thing going, like with you go Oro Valley to the airport and along Broadway or Speedway or whatever, and then you make a circle around the cross. So you can have sort of like 3 north-south, 3 east-west, with like an extra distance going, and maybe another one going up to Marana And
the layout and planning of what's called nowadays high capacity transit routes is an interesting thing, and I'm not, and what the pattern that you describe is a pattern that might emerge. But to my way of thinking, the way that you do that is you identify all your larger activity centers,
right,
and then you try to connect them. Because that's where you want to put your high capacity transit, is where a lot of people are going to go.
Well, and not only that, but where where the business activity is going to stay.
Right.
Like, so if it's an established mall, definitely, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's why Broadway comes out at the top, and it's always come out at the top, and that's why Broadway was the 1987 study was primarily a transit study. It recommended the widening of the road, but one of the reasons for the widening was to get lanes for transit and for light rail along Broadway. But the reason that Broadway has emerged over the years as the top corridor for transit is because it's the only corridor in the city where you can line up. And when I talk the corridor, I talk clear to the west side. It's the only corridor where you can line up Pima College West, downtown, with a little deviation to the north, the University of Arizona, 2 regional malls, Williams Center, 2 hospitals. You can't do that on any other corridor in this valley, and that's why light rail on Broadway is the place you want it.
Yeah, because it's got the most stuff.
It's got the most stuff that attracts people.
Densest,
It's the densest travel corridor. Yeah.
And then I guess the next most would be what, Oracle?
Maybe not. That's a debate that's ongoing between, I think, Campbell and Oracle, because if you look at Campbell, you got, let's say you started over at Park Mall, which is actually a Tucson Mall, which is on Oracle, but then if you went over to Campbell, then you got the Cancer Center, you got UMC, you got the University of Arizona, you go south, you got the new tech park that the U of A's built down at 36th Street, you deviate a little bit to the east, you got Keno Hospital, you go straight south from there to the airport, and that's a lot of things to line up on one chain.
But if you think about it, the malls pretty much end at like maybe Prince, maybe let's say Roger, okay. And if you picked one of those roads and took say Roger over to Campbell, like go south from
you'd be
however
close
far
to
north
the
down
Cancer
Oracle,
Center,
and then make
Cancer
a
Center is just north of
east,
Prince at Allen Road.
Yeah, on Roger or on Prince, and then you get all those things, and then you could go back down Campbell from there.
Right.
And then you could do that. What do you do with the end? That single lane thing at the end of the one that ends over by the UMC.
The existing streetcar.
Yeah, it's got a single lane that just goes
single
to nowhere.
track. You mean that?
Yeah. What's up with that?
Well, what's up with that is that you had a underpass that was under Speedway that they wanted to use, which is very logical. I think it's a great route. Yeah. But if you'd have put 2 tracks there, there wouldn't have been any room left for bikes and pedestrians. And I think that the series of the 3 underpasses on Speedway for bikes and pedestrians that were put in when they widened Speedway 20 years ago now or whatever have worked very well. Yeah. Because I remember Speedway before that, and people used to dart. It was horrible. People used to dart across everywhere, and the underpasses really do work. And so nobody wanted to take away that 3rd underpass, even though it was the least used of the 3. And so I think that you just had to live with a single track there. And we may have to live with a single track there for a long time.
Does it just go to nowhere, or do you try to join it up? Say, if you're running a route up down Campbell,
if you do an extension up Campbell of the streetcar,
would it jump off from there?
You may have to put a track around on another street. Some of the talk has been to bring it down Campbell and not have an underpass for one direction, and then the other direction uses the underpass, and that's one option. The other option is just live with a short short piece of single track, you know.
Yeah.
In Sacramento, when they built their light rail line, their first light rail line, for 15 years or more, they lived with a section of single track on a light rail line, which is supposed to be higher speed.
Right.
And so it can be done. It just takes a lot of coordination
Sure.
and careful operation of your vehicles. It's not ideal, and the people doing operations don't like it, but if you really work at it, you can make a short section of single track work.
Well, they do it with the freight.
That trains do it all the time.
They do it
Yeah,
all the
but
time.
they don't run on a schedule where you got people depending on it and you're supposed to be there, and they don't run 10 minutes apart to, well, sometimes freight trains do.
I don't know. You watch them go downtown. Right?
but the point is they're not scheduled, and when they're running 10 minutes, it's one after another
Yeah,
and
yeah,
going the
yeah,
same
going the same
direction. You're
direction.
not trying to get
Yeah.
them going both
Right.
directions. So it's a challenge with single track, but it can be done.
So yeah, okay. So you're saying that you could probably take the one that's going there and use it as a northbound, and then have it
probably,
make a
yeah.
left across Campbell and head north
Well,
on Campbell,
where-
and have a southbound go
Yeah,
across Speedway at Grade,
yeah,
and then make a
essentially.
right on First
On second.
or Second. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's
I like
not
that.
a bad idea.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I don't like it particularly, but it's
No.
not a bad idea.
So where do we, if we have, do we just we can only cross under the railroad tracks, the Southern Pacific Railroad?
We do on
Can-
Fourth, the streetcar, you mean?
Yeah,
It does on Fourth
We only
Avenue.
go
yeah.
under it. You
Well-
can't go like over Murphy's.
Yeah, why not?
Could we? Is it
Sure.
Would it support the weight?
Oh yeah, the per axle weight. You have lots of axles on those vehicles, even though they're heavy and
So it's
they're
not
long.
more than a
there's
truck.
lots of axles, so that's what where the weight issue comes in, is how much weight is on each axle.
Yeah.
And so I haven't figured it out.
So you could
but
send it down Keno. You could conceivably send it
you
down
could
Keno
send
because
it
they have the
down
new mall down
Keno.
there. On
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's good. All right. Let's see. We haven't had any calls. I don't see anyone yet getting our thing here. Did you guys? Obviously, what's next for the task force?
Well, we're obviously very anxious for the meeting
Yeah.
on June 9th with mayor and council to see what happens with that. But if mayor and council accepts it and it goes on, I believe, to RTA next, and if it's accepted, then the city can actually start going to the property owners on Broadway and negotiating, property by property, what's going to happen with those. Once that's occurred, then the project team starts working towards refining that design, and we expect that the task force is going to meet 4 or 5 more times before the end of 2015. So we'll be in the loop on that, which
Yeah.
is of course why we'd
Yeah.
love to get comments from folks.
Yeah.
And just circling around a little bit, one of the recommendations, since we were talking about transit, one of the recommendations that the task force is forwarding to the city, in addition to saying, the drawings, the maps that we looked at, is we've recommended that mayor and council seriously consider implementing some form of transit, whether it's bus rapid transit or something
Down
else,
Broadway.
as soon as the funding's available.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really
And you-
excited about that, and that would be a great thing for the public to speak up about, both in messages to the task force and to mayor and council.
Are you looking at RTA for that funding, or is it federal? Or
Well,
where-
at this point, it's not included in the Broadway project.
Right.
So I mean, Jean could probably speak to that better than I could, but I mean, there are opportunities for federal funding. There are, it's always a possibility to raise money locally to make it happen too.
Yeah, I think the city is holding open their federal funding possibilities by following the federal rules with the Broadway study that's going on now, and I think local funding with the reauthorization of the RTA, which will come up in the next 3 to 5 years probably, there's a chance to put a project like that in there. So those are certainly 2 possibilities.
Okay. By what, we got Grant going, we got the downtown links, we got this. When are we gonna see it done? 2020. When's Grant getting done?
Grant's got about 5 phases, and it's
Yeah.
going to go on till 2025 probably, or 20,
So you got 10 more years.
2026. Yeah. But the Broadway thing, if they start construction in 2018, it shouldn't be more than 18 months to 2 years. So
Yeah.
sometime in 2020.
I mean, they only have 2 miles to do it.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
not like a Grant where you
Yeah,
got
you
5
got
or 6 miles
yeah,
or
something
whatever.
like
it
that.
is.
Right.
Yeah, 5 left, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Any closing things? We have a couple minutes, about a minute and a half, so we have to be done.
Well, just thanks for having us.
Oh,
It was a fun
yeah,
discussion.
well, thank you.
And I always love to talk about transit issues. So if you're still, if Channel 12 is still here and you're still on the air,
it's PAG 12 is the thing, but we're channel 20 and 74.
Okay.
So yeah.
No, sorry about that.
But Access Tucson,
But
yeah.
have us come back, Access Tucson.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
we can talk transit some more or whatever.
So everyone, go to the website, the tucsonaz.gov/Broadway. You can learn more about what's happening and when, or just listen to the show again because I think we've covered it all. Have we?
We've covered a lot of
I
ground.
think we did. All right. Probably more than 2 miles. Please also go attend the next 2 mayor and council meetings. One is for the water rates. The second one on the 9th, June 9th, is the approval of our CTF recommendation. Hope to see you there. That's our show. Stay tuned for possibly our last show in a month, but hopefully not, on Friday the 19th of June 2015. Access Tucson needs your donations now, so send them in. Let's keep it community media. I'd like to thank Gene and Mary. I'd like to thank all our crew, and thank Access Tucson. See you in a month, everybody. Bye-bye.